Hello, my name is Thomas Schuttenhelm, and I am the Artistic Director at Network for New Music. Today, we have a very special conversation with composers in advance of our concerts on October 21st and 23rd at U Arts and at Haverford College. Today, we are featuring Ahmed Al Abaca, and he is a composer of orchestral music and chamber music and film music. He is a pianist, a music director, a conductor, and an all-around advocate for creatives and performing musicians. Welcome, Ahmed.
Hello, hello, hello. I should say that my pronouns are they, them, just so you know.
Thank you, Ahmed. It's so good to have you today. And we're really excited to be featuring your Woodwind Trio on our concerts. But what I wanted to do is just get a little introduction to you. Could you tell us a little bit about your musical journey?
Oh, absolutely. And thank you for having me, Thomas. This is really cool. This seems like a meeting that's been well overdue, you and I. So I'm really happy and just all around grateful to be here. I did I'll start with, growing up, I was the only musician. I'm still the only like professional musician slash artist in my family. And a lot of folks in my family played sports. They went into education, nursing, and things like that. So I'm the only musician, and so I started playing at a very young age, at 6, and I would create my own little tunes from that age. There was a piano in my grandmother's garage. She brought it in the house, and it was like the rest was history. And I've just been playing ever since, and that was 33 years ago. So
Ahmed,
that started, yes.
you were raised by your grandmother, is that right?
Yeah, I was raised from the age of 4 until I moved out to go to college when I was 18. But I would say I was raised by my grandmother. I'm still being raised by her, and she's passed away. I'm still being raised by her.
Yeah.
So everything I do, every choice I make, every step I take, it's like in the light of my grandmother. And so I'm always the fish, what would Jesus do? I'm always like, what would my grandmother do?
Is she the one who bought you the book, How to Play Piano, that you first started?
Yeah, she was the one who got me everything, like my first keyboard. I remember yeah, so from the age of 6 I would just noodle around on the piano, but when I turned 10, for Christmas she bought me a keyboard, and she also bought me like this VHS on like how to play. There was 3 songs of Stand By Me, Proud Mary, and House of the Rising Sun.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember learning. I got them on Christmas, and by New Year's I could already play those songs. And she was like, "Oh, this kid really, like, this is what they want to do." And so I started piano lessons. So yeah, she bought me all of my everything. When I was in band in high school, and I was in the marching band, uniforms, everything. No one in my family went to anything I did. No one came to performances for that matter. But my grandma was extremely supportive of me doing the thing that I loved, especially where we grew up. It wasn't like we didn't have a lot of options on what we could go into. So like I had some family members go to the NFL, but that was it. No one else really like found their thing until they were older. So for me to find my thing at a very young age, my grandma really was just like, "Oh, we're gonna put them in this. They're gonna go do that." Even though she couldn't come to everything, like my friends and their families at that time, they were very supportive in making sure I got to rehearsals, making sure I was fed in some cases, so making sure I got to performances. So, but yeah, she was the one who really like just let me go in all of it.
Well, it's interesting you said that make sure that she was fed, because I read in your bio, you said that food has always been at the center of your creative process.
Oh yeah, I have a bag of pistachios here. I just had a slamming BLT. Yeah, food. Well, it wasn't like food was scarce growing up. We were definitely like under like lower under middle class poor. We did not have everything on the menu, but like that was the one thing my grandmother, she's from the south, so that was the one thing like the food I ate growing up was so good. Like and so and she fed everyone. It was like her way of showing like we don't have much but we can at least feed you. And so yeah, food is a big deal. Like when I'll have writing, I used to have, well, I haven't had them in a while, but when I lived in Los Angeles, I'd have writing sessions with my friends and I'd cook for them. I'd bake cookies for them. We'd drink wine and we would cry and then we would write songs and then I'd say, all right, are you hungry? And I would just like make fresh pasta and like, because it was just something that just connected us just more. Food
Yeah.
connects people, music connects people, but if you can sit around a table with someone and break bread and like sip on some good wine or water, it doesn't matter as long as you have a beverage, and eat some food, you can really get to know someone. You can really connect with with someone. That I think that's why people go on dinner dates. I don't know.
Yeah, nourish the stomach and the soul.
Yeah, exactly. Food's important. And I always, when I have friends who are like stressing out and all, they have constant headaches and everything, I'm like, you need to eat. Like you need to eat. Like you're starving. You don't know it. You're running all day without having any food or water. You need to eat. And so I'm always constantly pushing food in front of people.
So yeah, I'm curious because you were raised in California and then you moved to New York for a while and then moved back to California and now I'm finding you in Chicago. So could you tell us a little bit about your journey, your geographical journey?
I think it's important for folks to, see the world. And I'm fortunate enough to be able to have built a community of friends and family, chosen family all over the country. And so when I move, if I decide I want to move, it's like I already have a family in that city. So I'll tell you, like, I was born and raised in San Bernardino. I moved to New York. I was there for 8 years and just, met incredible artists, incredible friends, incredible people. I moved back to LA because my grandmother was sick and she ended up passing away before I moved back to California. And so I was like, I want to like be closer to my family. I had nieces and nephews that had grown up and I wasn't really around. And then I also had friends out there who I hadn't seen in years. So I moved to LA, and then also moving to LA would put me in Hollywood because there was a point where I wanted to be a big film composer. I still write for film, but it's kind of just for my friends at this point. And I'm fortunate in that because a lot of them have been featured in some pretty amazing film festivals and so I'm proud of the work that I've been able to do in that way without having to like really get involved with Hollywood. So LA was, and it was a change of pace. I wanted to come back home, and then the pandemic happened, and I had some friends in LA who had moved back to their hometown, Boise, Idaho. And they're like, Ahmed, we're just in this house with our parents. It's a big house. We have an extra room. Just come to Boise. So I did. I moved. I packed up my cat and everything and moved to Boise. I was there for several months. I was teaching online and writing. I had some commissions. And they had a piano. So it was like, it almost felt like a residency in a sense. And so I was there working at the family brewery. I was, a beer tender. So it was fun. Did some shows. And then another friend of mine was like, Ahmed, there's a house in Hawaii that no one's living in. It's my grandparents' house. You can go live there if you'd like. I was like, well, I've been to that part of Hawaii, Hilo, many times. So I was like, all right, cool. I just went to Hawaii, and I was like, that was the because it was an option for me. So I went, and I was there for 2 weeks, and then my friend here in Chicago uh, called me with some distressing news, and she just needed some help. So I moved back. I didn't move back. I moved to Chicago to help her, and have just ended up staying here. So I've been here now for 2.5 years. So that's kind of the journey from like age like 21 to now 39. That's all. Those are all the places that I've lived, and
Thank
I'm sure I'm
you.
going to live
Yeah, no,
in more
it's great
places.
to get a picture, and also for young musicians who are trying to figure out where's my place. And it seems
Yeah,
like traveling has been an important part of your journey. I'm
yeah.
interested a little bit more in your interest in film music, because I remember reading that you really love like John Williams, and Jurassic Park was like the piece that got you into it. And yet your more recent work, like Sundays in July,
Hmm.
is quite a different scope in terms of film music. Could you tell us a little bit about where the urge to write film music originated, and how you developed that?
Oh, that's a brilliant question, and thank you for doing all. Like, no one has ever interviewed me and actually like went and listened and like had points of references, and I mean that's very cool. I appreciate that. I think, I mean, I I can't say we've all grown up like listening and appreciating John Williams' music, because we've all seen Spielberg's movies, and John Williams is right there in all of his movies for the most part. And but I can't say that everyone can appreciate it or hear it in the way that I heard it. When I first heard Jurassic Park, and I mean film scores from animated films, all the Disney Renaissance, all the music from that era. I was a kid in the '90s, so when Little Mermaid came out and all of those movies came out, that music just really like took over. Um, and I think now at the age that I'm at now, and when I think about it, it's like, well, that music was accessible because it was delivered to us in an accessible way, and it was orchestral, and it wasn't, Mozart. And because there's for folks who aren't in our industry or in the world of classical music, the name Mozart, the name Beethoven, those names, that invokes this feeling of that's someone else's. That like that doesn't belong to me. That's something that that isn't for me. But movies are for everyone. Like, anyone can go to a movie. You don't have to be black to be moved by the movie The Color Purple. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? We can all watch that movie and cry and laugh and be brought into a world that maybe we're not familiar with, but the music helps connect us to to the story. And so movies are accessible. And so I was able to like get my orchestral my understanding of orchestral music through movies. And so when you listen to something like Sundays in July, which is kind of like a little jazz trio type of thing, which was music that I had written for a different purpose, and but it happened to work out and work for the film because the filmmaker was like, "Oh, we want it to be kind of smoky and film noir," and I said, "Oh, I have this piece that I wrote," and so I tweaked it for the film, and it's but it doesn't sound like my influence, which is John Williams or Danny Elfman or Catherine Bostic and all. It doesn't sound like that, but it's what that music is what sparked my interest in writing music that goes along with storytelling
Now,
and with film. So
because you've had pieces performed by the American Composers Orchestra and the Atlanta Symphony, but you mentioned that your breakout moment was when Across the Calm Waters of Heaven was played
Mhm.
at the Color and Music Festival. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So that piece was written after a mass shooting in my hometown of San Bernardino, and what I hope to convey with or the message I'd like to send out usually with my music is is um, is is hope or the feeling of healing. Like we can be in this space of tragedy and pain, but if we if we really focus and take care of those who mean the most to us, which should be everyone, we can move through those dark times. We can move through these unfortunate events, and then also activate ourselves in a way so that we can prevent these events. So that's where that piece, you know, was born from. It was born from this tragic event in my hometown, and I had done a performance of it as a fundraiser for the Pulse nightclub. And from that performance, the director of Color of Music, Lee Pringle, he reached out and was like, "Hey, I would love to do this piece at our festival." And it was one of the most beautiful things I've ever experienced because I had never up until that point seen an all black orchestra. I had never, I knew obviously that there were black musicians, but I didn't know there was a place for us like Color of Music. And then I learned about Sphinx, and then I learned about gateways, and it just, my whole like mind exploded. And you have to keep in mind that was, I was, that was in 2016. So I was already over 30 and I hadn't seen an all black orchestra. And so that was a big moment in my life to see my peers, to see people who I consider family now perform my music and it be conducted by, you know, one of the up and coming conductors of our time, Roderick Cox. Um, to have all that happen and it be the first time a professional group of people played my music, it was life changing. It really was, and it let me know that I was doing the right thing. I chose the right thing to do, to be a composer, to be a storyteller. So so yeah, no, that was, it was life changing for me, and it was a pivotal point in the shift in my career. So
It's just a
I always,
sublime piece. It's really
oh,
wonderful. So I want
thank you.
everyone to please go check out go Google Across the Calm Waters of Heaven and have a listen because it's really just exquisite writing. And that moment when the piano comes, it's just like it's so unexpected because
Yeah.
the YouTube video is the orchestra, so you just see the strings and then the piano just comes in. So bit of a plot spoiler there, sorry, but it's
Yeah.
just
Well, there's another element at the end that you didn't say, and they'll hear it when they go listen to it. So,
so we're
oh,
featuring
I really love that. Thank you.
it's
Sorry, go
really
ahead.
wonderful, but we're going to be featuring your Woodwind Trio. So I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about that piece for our audiences.
Well, I will tell you this, and I will tell everyone this. As a living composer, a lot of the times and not a lot of the times, most of the time, it's very difficult to get work commissioned and performed, and what tends to happen is you will start to, as your friends get higher and higher in the ranks of their career, they will start to ask you to write music. And so a dear friend of mine, James Pitko, he's a clarinetist. He performed the West Coast premiere of my piece Ascension. That's for solo clarinet and strings, with the San Jose Chamber Orchestra, which is led by Barbara Barbara Day Turner. Incredible ensemble in San Jose, and so from that he then commissioned me over the pandemic, over the beginning of the pandemic, to write a woodwind trio because him and some friends were playing these porch concerts for for
Mm.
folks. So musicians, we heal the world. It's like people need music. They need to see. They need to be able to go outside and like listen to people like play things. And so they commissioned me to write this piece. But James, he's like, Ahmed, there'll be three of us, but I'm doubling on bass clarinet and the flute player, and I forgive me, her name is slipping my mind. She's doubling on piccolo. So though it's a woodwind trio, there's five instruments that that's being played, not obviously at the same time, but throughout the piece. And so I with the little information that I had, oh, it's a porch concert. So the music has to be like fun. It has to be fun. It can't be, because it's summertime. I didn't want to write anything that was like dreary and like moody, because I usually write music that comes from some sort of tragedy, because I'm always thinking about how can I heal people with these chords and melodies, and so or how can I help someone feel better about their situation? I'm no doctor, but am trying to help people feel better about their situation through my music. But this was different, so I said, all right, this should be fun. It should pop. It should be loud. It should be fast. And then there's like a slow movement in the middle that kind of sounds like Star Wars to some degree. It kind of has like this Tatooine thing going on. The chords are really fun. And then it just repeats the beginning again, but this time it's switched. So in the first part, I believe it starts with flute, oboe, and regular like B flat clarinet, and that's going and that's going, and then as it goes into the slow movement, the B flat clarinet changes to the bass clarinet, and then you have now the bass clarinet with flute and oboe, and then for the last part, it's it stays bass clarinet, oboe, but then the flute changes to piccolo, and then now you have that arrangement. So you have three instrumentations with the oboe being the oboe sustaining throughout. But I think are you guys playing the one with flutes and saxophones?
Two flutes and clarinet.
Oh, two flutes and clarinet. Oh, okay. Yeah. So, because there is a version for flute, piccolo, second flute, alto sax, bari sax. So, and that's played with two people. Actually, it's played with three, but the people who recorded it, it was only between two people. There is a version out there for flutes and alto sax. I think there's a version for flute choir as well. There was an educator in Seattle who had reached out to me and was like, "Oh, can you do this for my flute choir?" It's a bunch of it's like an all young girls flute choir. So I did it. I made an arrangement for them. That's another thing. I think accessibility is so important in so many ways, and that also means the instrumentation. If you reach out to me and say, "Hey, I'd love to play this on my viola, even though it's written for tenor sax," I will make an arrangement for you. You will have to pay me to do that, but I will make an arrangement for you. I don't mind. Or if you want to take it on and do it yourself, I will often say yes, go right ahead, because it's more important for me that the music is performed, one, but that the people who gel with it should be able to perform it. And if it's not on their instrument and they're like, "Man, I really wish I can play this," I'd rather you do that than me go, "No, it's really only for this thing. I'm so sorry, and you don't have permission to make your own arrangement." I've written so much music up until this point in my life, and I plan on writing a lot more. Nothing is so sacred to me at this point. I really do feel like if you want to do it, I'm honored that you want to do it. So go forth and have fun and send me a recording. I'd love to hear it,
So tell us what you're working on these days.
Ooh, so I recently been commissioned by the Grant Park Music Festival here in Chicago to write a string quartet for their it's a fellowship that they have for young string players, and so that'll go up next summer. There's a friend of mine, Renald Ford. He's a multi-instrumentalist. I'm writing a chamber piece for him. It's oboe, soprano sax, and piano, and that'll be performed in January. And then I have some arranging gigs that I have coming up. One of the big premieres that's coming up is in February. My dear friend Amanda Collins Escalante, who's an incredible horn player. She plays a lot with the Seattle Symphony, but she is the horn professor at Mizzou Columbia in Missouri. And she commissioned me to write a piece for solo horn and wind ensemble. And it was supposed to be premiered last winter, but she had a baby, so that's very cool. So she's like, "No, I don't think I'm gonna be able to play my horn because I have a child." And I'm like, "All right, cool." So we're gonna premiere that, and that there will be a residency attached to that premiere. So I'll get to work with the students there on the piece. And then just there's that. I have a piece that I scored. It's that was in the WOW Festival in San Diego. It's a theater festival in San Diego. My friend Ricky Allen wrote this incredible one-man show called Black Seance, and I was lucky enough to score it. So I have that also at the end of February. My orchestra, South Loop Symphony, we're performing November 18th here. But one concert I'm really proud of with this orchestra, as a living composer, I do my very best to put new music on every concert. So we try to focus on music only from the 20th and 21st century. We will be doing a Mozart violin concerto, but it's one of our members. It's her kid, and he's learning it. So I was like, oh, we can play it with him so that he can have the experience of playing a concerto with an orchestra. So we're going to do that. But anyways, the focus that I have on our last concert and moving forward is we're in a big city, and this city, there's composers on every block. And I really feel like if you have an opportunity to have an ensemble in a big city, you should be performing the music of local composers. It should be easier here in places like New York and LA and Austin
Philadelphia
and Philadelphia. It should be easy to have your programming represent the local talent, instead of like if you asked me to come and like Atlanta Symphony, that was through earshot. But if they had reached out to me on their own, I'd be grateful and I would go. But I would also press them in a way to say, hey, you're Atlanta. Like, there are composers everywhere here. Like, you really should be engaging with them as well, because it's one thing to go and see a living composer that's not from your area, and that feels the way. But the other thing is when we go to these concerts and it's like the same old guys, Beethoven, Dvorak, Tchaikovsky. It's like, dang, these guys aren't even here, and I am competing with them. It can be discouraging. It can be neglectful to some degree. You have talented people in your city. Reach out to them. The professors who are teaching composers at the universities in your city, they're composers. Like, play their music. So that's our last concert. It's going to be 90% of the composers will be from Chicago on that concert. So, yeah.
Ahmed, thank you for underlining that, and we are featuring it. It's real central to our mission at Network. We are featuring two local composers, and we're incredibly proud to be representing you and your Woodwind Trio with our flute players Ed Schultz and Chelsea Manning, and clarinetist Sean Bailey. So please, everyone, join us on October 21st at UArts and October 23rd at Haverford College to hear Ahmed Al Abaca's Woodwind Trio. Ahmed, it was so good to talk to you. Thanks for taking the time today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Anytime, let me know.